This Voice Registry podcast is brought to you by voicebank.net. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Pattin, and I am here at the Invisible Studios in West Hollywood with my guest, Geremy Dingle.
Hello. Who
is, you're a voice actor, you're an internet personality, internet radio personality.
Correct, yeah.
I want to hear all about that. But let's first start with your voiceover background. And you do stand-up comedy.
And I do.
Okay, so what about your voiceover background? What do you do? And
what do I do? Well, the voiceover industry is one of those wonderful little industries that I more or less happened upon. I've always done voices. I've always tinkered around with sound and have basically developed sound and musical instrumentation and all the rest. I sing and all that. And in 2001, I just happened to be in the vicinity of the place where I could do some PSAs for the 9/11 victims. So I thought,
really?
Yeah. So I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to start to create some voiceover stuff and to see, how I would fare in the voiceover.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. How did you get that? I mean, did you do it here in L.A.? Or?
Yes, this was here in L.A. In fact, this was a special site called 911.org, I believe, was the site. Don't know if it's still up and running now, 7 or so years later. But Randy Thomas was one of the facilitators of that website. She was my neighbor at the time.
Okay.
I was working with her at the time, helping out, and she said, hey, we need some PSAs for this 911.org site. And like everybody at that time, I wanted to do something, to contribute positively, to the people and all the rest. So that's how that just started.
So that started your voiceover career.
Essentially.
What an amazing, I mean, that's an amazing way to start.
Yeah, it in terms of the specific voiceover. Now, prior to that, I sort of self-produced at that time, I suppose, 3 musical albums as a vocal instrumentalist.
Okay, so you have a singing background.
Yeah, exactly. There's that background. But voiceover was something that literally was just at that time. It just sort of happened in that way. And I just started doing voiceover stuff. And I took some classes and workshops and so forth, which is obviously a good idea.
Right.
And got wise to how to take a piece of copy and turn it into something. So you're not just sitting there and reading it, basically.
Right.
Make it your own.
Well, now I'm really interested in your internet radio show, and all of the listeners are voiceover actors, and I think with new media and the opportunities that are just emerging all the time, this could be an interesting avenue for voice actors. So tell us about your show and how did you get into internet radio? And third question, what is internet radio?
Okay.
How do you define it?
Okay, well, why don't we start with that one, because that will help to sort of set the ground for it. Internet radio is essentially just like walking over to your radio in your home stereo, or even turning on your car stereo onto the radio, and you've got a certain amount of dials on the radio, and obviously the different dials, the different stations have different programming. Some like to play jazz, some like to play classic rock, some like to play contemporary, and so forth. We'll take that sort of concept, throw it up onto the internet, and essentially the principle's the same. You go to a website that is a internet radio station. You can click on play now to hear what is streaming live from the station.
Okay.
But what internet radio has that obviously local radio doesn't is it has, first of all, the international audience capacity.
Which is interesting, different from what they call terrestrial radio.
Yes.
Which is somewhat limited.
Yes.
But this, again, like internet, you can be heard across the world.
Absolutely. You can be over in Europe, you can be in Australia, you can be somewhere in Asia. As long as you have an internet connection, you can dial into the site and you can either listen to the shows live, and most internet radio stations have archives or some sort of an archival system. So if you like a show and you want to go back and listen to a previous show, you say you see something that you want to listen to, a subject matter, you can just simply go and you can listen to an archive.
And it's just like this show. So it is somewhat podcasting. It's sort of a combination then.
Exactly.
So tell us about your show and how that came about.
All right. The Dingle Net Radio Show. First of all, the name is a spoof on, obviously, my last name.
Yeah.
You have a name like Dingle.
Use it.
Use it. I mean, it's entertaining.
And you do stand-up comedy. We'll talk about that.
We'll get to that. But obviously, in the years of stand-up, Dingle, all I need to say is, hi, I'm Geremy Dingle, and the first laugh is
you were born into it.
That's right.
Perfect.
Exactly. So the radio show, how it happened, again, this was one of those things, and it just, the more I see and the more I experience, it seems that the less you are specifically looking for something to happen, yet actively pursuing and putting an effort to the idea of what it is that you want to happen, the more it's just going to happen. You won't know how or where or when, but it just somehow does. So how the radio show thing happened, I'd thought about doing radio shows over the years, okay? I'd tinkered with the idea. I'd even tooled with the idea when I was a student. I'd actually done some sort of mock radio shows with a friend of mine, and that was great fun. But I kind of put that aside and was focused on other things. And I happened to be plugging something that I had done previous in this year. I was actually self-promoting a website called newfiction.com, which is a site that's designated to turning unpublished novels into audiobooks.
Okay. Another place for voice actors.
Another place for voice actors.
This has been part 1 of my interview with internet radio personality and voice actor Geremy Dingle. Join me next time for part 2. This Voice Registry podcast was brought to you by voicebank.net. Join us next time.